The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc.
Welcome, everyone, to the Fed15 podcast, presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we discuss the latest news and info the feds need to know in 15 minutes-ish or less. So whether you are a seasoned federal employee or just starting out in your career, Fed15's got you covered. So grab your coffee, your energy drink, your green juice, whatever gets you going. Kick back, and we'll tell you what you need to know but might have missed. We are your hosts. I'm Dan Sipe, and I am joined by she who may be imitated but can never be duplicated, Katelyn Murray.
Interesting. Thoughts and prayers for the folks who are imitating this one over here. So how's it going this week, Dan? I will tell you that it's fairly soggy here. We've been in the rainy season. Our Memorial Day got rained out a little bit where I'm at, which was kind of a bummer. But
up here around the DMV, but pretty wet as well. Got a decent day today, so thankful for that. But what can I say? It's spring.
Yeah.
So those of you who are regular listeners know that we're a track and field family, and my kids are now coaching. And the one thing that you just accept about spring track is mud.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got plenty of that this year.
Yeah, we've got a little piece of blue sky today. Hope we can make the most of it. I have definitely missed it this week. I think we missed out on the April showers, and so what's happening now is that they're coming back around for us. So.
Yes, all over the Mayflowers.
Mm-hmm. Anywho, so we've got a great episode prepped for you guys today. We're going to kind of be talking about, we've talked a lot recent weeks over, keeping the balance between, we want to make sure that we're educating you on all of the different facets of your benefits that kind of are there as a baseline, as a standard. But then we also want to make sure that we're keeping up with, obviously, the situation developing in the federal government with different agencies potentially being defunded and different, folks being riffed, all of that. So this is going to be a little bit heavy on current events, more so, I would say. Still, we've got all the good stuff with PERS and TSP and FEHB. You can check out our website for those webinars for that kind of baseline education. But we're gonna talk a little bit. I'm going to talk a bit about agency defunding and what happens with all of that. And Dan is going to be talking with us a little bit later about how you can challenge an unjust security clearance revocation, which is something that we've seen a bit lately. And we want to make sure, obviously, that you have all of the education and knowledge at your fingertips to make the best decisions possible for yourself and your family. So getting into this piece on the blog this week entitled, "What Happens If Your Agency Gets Defunded? Understanding Your Options." So agency defunding refers to budget reductions or complete eliminations that are passed by Congress or by the administration. Consequences, obviously, of an agency defunding might include job losses, program shutdowns, full agency closures, and the implementation of an agency defunding, as we have seen recently, can be immediate or gradual, depending on the administration's approach. Now, potential signs of defunding: recurring budget cut proposals, shifts in political priorities, hiring freezes or delayed projects, increases in early retirement or buyout offers, as we have seen lately, and limited or unclear communication from agency leadership. So, if you are in a situation where you think you are affected or could be affected by an agency defunding, how do we pivot into action? What do we do, right? So as we've seen with the recent VERA and VSIP offers across agencies, early retirement might be available to you as an option under specific federal rules during workforce reductions. There are certain requirements that you need to meet for that. And if you're interested to learn more about that, you can attend our early retirement webinar that we'll be plugging at the end of the episode. That's going to be on June 12th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Give you a little breadcrumb there in case you don't appease us and listen to the end of the episode. But we'll talk about kind of the guidelines and what kind of metrics you need to hit in order to even be eligible for a potential early retirement offer. VSIP, something that, has some letters that have been resurrected recently. It may be offered as a financial incentive to leave voluntarily. You could also look at transitioning to another federal position. Now, I know these days offers there are kind of slight, but they do still exist in some agencies and for some kind of strategic positions. So that can be a strategic alternative for you to early retirement.
Sure.
Now, figuring out what is the best option for you among all the options that are available to you, we highly recommend consulting with a Fed-focused financial advisor to kind of first parse out what options are available to me, and then second, parse out what's the best option based on my own values and goals. That could be retiring early. It also could be transitioning to another federal position or transitioning to a private sector position for a couple of years before you're able to retire and spend what you want to and have the quality of life that you want to have in retirement. And for that, this guy, Dan Sipe, has written a lot of pieces, has written some good content on the blog as far as pivoting within the federal government. We've also got some pieces as far as we've got a manual, the Federal Employee's Guide to Private Sector Work, pursuing a private sector career. So definitely hit stwserve.com for those details. Now, when we talk about agency defunding, federal law mandates advance written notice for layoffs or major changes, of which an agency defunding would be one. Additional support might include a career transition program, severance pay, potentially, and the right to appeal employment decisions. Unions or professional associations can help clarify employee rights and assist with addressing grievances or benefit disputes. So don't be afraid to look into that. And of course, legal counsel can be appropriate in cases of wrongful termination or benefit denial. So that's something that you want to keep in mind as well. Now,
indeed,
because I am the finance lady.
You are indeed.
I am the listener dubbed finance lady. I want to share some financial strategies to stay secure for you in the event that you feel your agency could be defunded. There are some potential effects of defunding on your benefits. You can get a reduced pension if you leave before your full retirement age. You can have halted or lowered TSP contributions, depending on what's happening with your salary. You can also have a need for alternative health care coverage. If something happens to disrupt your benefits and you're no longer eligible for FEHB, there's temporary continuation of coverage. There's also the option, if you're married, to go on your spouse's plan. If your spouse has health insurance available through their workplace, those are things that you need to kind of be thinking about. As far as preparing, number one, and I feel like we say this all the time on the podcast, you want to make sure that you have an emergency fund in place. Trust me, when you are dealing with uncertainty, which is a fundamental element of life, right? Having an emergency fund of about 6 months. If you're not quite at 6 months, start at 3 months. Having an emergency fund of about 6 months of expenses really, really, really helps to still the mind and instill confidence, because you know that, at least you've got 6 months worth of spending in the bank that you can bridge the gap. Obviously, working to reduce your debt and reduce your discretionary spending. Discretionary spending, of course, as a reminder, is all of the stuff that we don't necessarily have to spend on, right? If you've got a mortgage, you got to pay your mortgage or they're going to take your house. If you've got, you need electricity because it's hot in the summer and it's cold in the winter. You need some basic amount of grocery spending, but dinners out, going out to the movies, going shopping, those sorts of things are discretionary, and we can kind of curtail that a little bit in periods of time where it looks like employment may not be so secure. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you're reviewing all of your benefits and insurance options if you are not fully benefit literate. You want to make sure that you get there. And we have great tools for that. Serving Those Who Serve hosts free webinars on all of the major components of your benefits. We
Absolutely.
also have free part 2 meetings with Serving Those Who Serve advisors to really get into the weeds and look at your specific benefits through our benefits analysis. So highly, highly recommend taking advantage of that and really knowing your benefits, knowing what's available to you so that as these things come up, you can navigate it safely and securely. And lastly, you want to start considering the career transitions to private sector or consulting. If you've got a LinkedIn page, make sure you've got that sucker updated. Get a nice fresh photo on there. Make sure that you are looking at, I know I've already plugged it once, but really look at that Federal Employees Guide to Private Sector Employment, because we've got some great advice in there for how you can kind of prepare if that becomes a reality. But it's much better to get it ready in advance and be mobile than to be in a situation where you're having to get all that together as you're applying, to places. So make sure that you're dusting off your LinkedIn, maybe you're updating your resume, and make sure that you're using verbiage to kind of take what might be termed one way in the federal sector, shift it to that private sector language. And that's why I recommend that piece on the website. We've got some good advice there for using the right kind of language. Private sector jobs could offer you a higher income and more flexibility. So it's not all bad. There could be some pivots there that you can make, but they often come with higher insurance costs and possibly less generous retirement options. So this is where we go back to talk with a Fed-focused CFP who understands your federal benefits and can also help you make the best of both worlds if that's the situation that you're in and that's the transition that you're considering. Okay. So definitely recommend working with a Fed-focused financial advisor to work through this. You could also look at a career coach. That I think that could be helpful for making sure that you're structuring your resume and your LinkedIn to give you the best chance possible at a great private sector job, if that is the route that you're going. And that's just going to have the impact of reducing stress for you throughout what is a pretty stressful time. So,
absolutely. Great tips.
Yeah. So Dan, you're going to talk with us about kind of a similar situation, but a little bit more individualized. What kind of happens and how do we challenge it when some of our feds who maybe hold a security clearance when that is revoked?
Absolutely. It's a shifting political landscape, folks. And so recent executive orders have impacted clearance policy, including fast-tracked interim clearances for political appointees, but also mass revocations affecting former intelligence officers. And see, here's the thing. A security clearance is a pretty valuable career thing to have. So, for example, clearance status typically can be influenced by personal conduct, judgment, and also broader political and administrative changes. That loss of clearance, can disrupt current employment, income stability, eligibility for roles after retirement, consulting opportunities. So it's an important thing. So step number one, you need to understand why the clearance was revoked or denied. So review the SOR or official denial letter. Common issues can include financial concerns, foreign contracts, or personal behaviors. Note the agency managing the case. DOD cases follow the DOHA, Defense Office of Hearings and Appeals process. Other agencies, DOE or the intelligence community, may have different procedures, so they can vary. Step number 2, this is important. Respond promptly and thoroughly. Typically, that response window is 15 to 30 days, and missing deadlines can absolutely disqualify you for the appeal. So you could have a great case and you miss the date, and you're not going to be able to make your case to advance getting your clearance back. The written responses should address each issue in the SOR individually, include supporting documentation. So if it was a financial thing, debt resolutions, recommendations, debt counseling completion, things like that. Prepare for the DOHA hearing if it's applicable. For DOD cases, a formal hearing occurs before an administrative judge, and you have the opportunity to present written evidence, witness testimony, and personal explanations. Number 4, consider hiring a professional. Self-representation is allowed, but not always recommended due to the complexity of clearance law. Legal experts can navigate the agency's specific rules and strengthen the appeal with a precise legal strategy. Some employee assistance programs or professional associations offer access to a vetted clearance attorney. So good place to be looking. And understand what happens after the hearing. So post-hearing, the judge will issue a recommendation to either reinstate the clearance or uphold the revocation. The final decision is made by the Personal Security Appeals Board, the PSAB, or a relevant agency panel. If denied again, reapplication may be possible after a waiting period. Applicants must demonstrate material changes to the circumstances that led to the revocation. So document, plan, protect your career. Okay. Clearance reinstatement is not permanent. So continued monitoring for any new issues, late payments, legal trouble can trigger reviews. And we would have to touch on this. Financial planning. We had to bring that up. Supports long-term eligibility. A CFP professional can assist in building and maintaining clearance-friendly financial habits. Clearance status should be treated as a critical career asset. So you want to take care of it. It can serve you in your federal service and serve you very well should you move out into the private sector, work with consulting groups, and that type of thing. So hopefully you found this helpful. Hopefully this doesn't happen to anybody that is within the sound of my voice. But if it does, these are the tools you can follow.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Dan. Yeah, I think that's, it's important to have the tools. Like I said, hopefully we, I agree with you that hopefully this isn't something folks are facing, but we do know it is something that is out there, and we want to make sure that we're serving all feds.
It's real.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So that's all the time we have for today, folks. We'll be back next week to bring you the latest updates you need to make informed decisions about your career and well-being as a Fed.
And so that you can make sure that you are in place for that next episode, analytics show us that 78% of folks watching our videos aren't subscribed. So make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast wherever you're listening, whether that's on our YouTube channel or whether it's on Spotify. That's going to make sure that you never miss an episode. And it's also going to do something else very important. It's going to boost this content in the algorithm and tell folks that this is what feds want to hear, that feds want to hear this content, which is going to help us reach more people who maybe don't even know that Serving Those Who Serve exists and doesn't even know about all of the free resources that we're putting out there for folks to learn about their benefits. Another way that you can help with that, share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. They're more willing to click on it. They're more likely to click on it and actually give it a listen if it's something that's recommended by a friend or a colleague. 15 minutes of your day-ish, and you get to learn about your benefits. Can't be any better than that.
Absolutely. And for more information on the topics covered in today's show and more, be sure to check out and subscribe to our blog, blog.stwserve.com, and subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving, to get all of this news for feds delivered straight to your inbox every single week. You don't even have to go looking.
Now, for those who want to dive even deeper into learning about federal benefits and financial planning for feds, we do encourage you to join us for one of our complimentary webinars. We have that early retirement session that I mentioned earlier, covering VERA, covering VSIP, covering discontinued service retirement.
Absolutely.
That's going to be on June 12th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And that will be hosted by yours truly. We also have, for folks who are wanting to learn a little bit more about their TSP, we've got a TSP session coming up on June 18th. And that'll be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's going to be hosted by Jen Meyer, one of our financial advisors here at the firm. Also very lovely. So definitely check out those two sessions. If it's FEHB that you're curious about, if it's FEGLI that you're curious about, if it's survivor benefits that you're curious about, if you are a special provisions employee, we love our special provisions people. Check out STWserve.com. Click on the button in the top right corner that says webinars, and that's going to give you our full list of upcoming webinars for all of those different topics. So you can pick the topic that's most important to you to learn about and check that one out. Now, of course, if you do prefer a one-on-one approach, Maybe you've got a unique situation and you want to, just skip right to, hey, how does this impact me specifically? Feel free to reach out to our team directly for a financial planning consultation at meetings@stwserve.com. I think, quite frankly, it's never been more important to have a Fed-focused financial advisor in your corner as you navigate this stuff. In some ways, we've seen reduction of workforce before. I'm sure we'll see it again. In some ways, this stuff is wacky. The stuff that's going on is wacky, and you got to stay on top of it. And HR is not bridging the gap these days.
Yep.
So just my 2 cents there.
Absolutely. And very valuable 2 cents they are. Folks, that's the show for this week. As always, thanks for listening to Fed15. I'm Dan Sipe.
And I'm Katelyn Murray.
And we will be back 100%. And we'll see you next week.